Hey internet, Eric here, and as you can see, I am not here alone. This is somebody. As I told my guest before we went live, I've been getting out of my social bubble with these. Oh, Patrick will love that. He's a big cat fan. He's in the chat. I've been getting out of my social bubble with these interviews, and this is somebody that I've been wanting to get on for a long time. If you are a fan of independent pro wrestling, you have most likely heard his legendary voice. Whether it's Ring of Honor, Combat Zone Wrestling, good lord, ICW No Holds Barred, IWA Deep South, Extreme Pro Wrestling, and pretty much anything that has wrestling in the title. And I'm not going to lie, I recently watched the new Running Man movie, and every time Coleman Domingo's ass was on TV in that movie, I was thinking of him. Mr. Larry Legend. Larry, thank you for joining me and sitting down and shoot the shit for a little bit.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I've done a lot of wrestling outfits, as was the terminology back in the day. Over my 23 years of being a pro wrestling ring announcer, or master of ceremonies as I like to go by.
I can't believe it's been that long, and I'm sure you can't believe we're getting old, my friend. We're getting old.
Believe you me, I remember at one point I used to see Steve DeAngelis, the old ECW ring announcer, kind of struggle to get into the ring when he would sometimes do shows at the Elks Lodge in Queens, and there would be no stairs. There would be no stairs, and I would see my old Uncle Steve kind of, really, really have a time with getting in and out of the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And at the last CZW show, 27, there were no stairs at that ring. So I wasn't thinking, at the time, put a chair, I was just thinking, got to start the show. And I just kind of like leapt up from the floor, put
Jesus.
my knee down on the apron and spun and got on in there. And I've been feeling that ever since. That little sort of like something that I could do, you know, 13 years ago, I can say
Yeah.
now, 13 years ago, it would not be a problem. I could just, jump on up and, click my heels three times and Larry Legend. And now it's sort of like, oh God, my bones, like that's where I am now.
Yeah,
Like,
we used to do the stupid shit that you see on Jackass when we're younger, and now we just mess our sciatica just getting out of the fucking bed.
oh my gosh, 100%. Sometimes I wonder if some of that stupid stuff that I did is I'm actually feeling the effects of it. I'm
Yeah.
sure that I am, and my friends that did it with me too.
Yeah. Larry, I always like to start these interviews with how I came to know I guess you'd say interview subject, for lack of a better term. But I'd like to do it on a more personal level. I don't want to say that, I've been watching pro wrestling for a long time and that's how I knew about Larry Legend. The first time I actually met you was ICW NHB Volume 30, Ultraviolent Vortex. That was my first in person, I guess you'd say, deathmatch show. And it was just literally you walking in high, shaking hands because, you got to get ready for the show. We were talking before we went live. Most of our interaction is on X, and it's a subject we'll definitely want to get into because we're going to talk wrestling. But most of our interaction, a lot of it is with horror movies. And that is something that I really love because I like to get to know the person behind what they do for a job. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's always whenever I'm posting something about Friday the 13th Part 2, especially, or Clive Barker,
Hmm.
the first person to usually respond is you, Larry. So that's how we came to know each other, and we're always sharing each other's stuff on X. So I appreciate that too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, I wonder, looking back on my upbringing, if
Mm-hmm.
horror movies didn't kind of work in conjunction with pro wrestling for a young Larry to like, whatever those things are that kind of like get you excited and like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the fight. I want to see the final girl, like what weapon she uses against Jason, or like,
Yeah.
like Nancy versus Freddy. Like I live for that climax of where all of her booby traps are working on him like in simultaneously, and he's just like, you're seeing him like like grabbing his head and holding his stomach, and you're like, oh my god, this is the guy who's been killing everybody, and he's getting his ass whipped.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I wonder, because my mom introduced me to horror movies really early on. I don't know how. I think she just wanted me to see some of her favorite movies, like The Omen and Jaws. Like
Hmm.
those two in particular were movies that I distinctly remember watching with my mom and being like, "This is crazy, but I can't stop watching, and I'm scared, but my mom's here, so I know I'm safe."
You know what? We'll stay on horror for just a second. That's the same thing with me. My mom was the big horror nut. My dad was the sci-fi nerd, Close
Oh
Encounters
wow.
and
Uh
stuff
huh.
like that. But my mom, she was the one introducing me, like, because she had all the Stephen King paperbacks that eventually became my
Nice. Mm-hmm.
paperbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I was born in '81, so one of my first horror movies was, of course, something like Gremlins. You know what I mean? That the
Right.
little kiddies can
Right.
see, but the parents can enjoy too because it's before PG-13, so they can get the gore and the stuff like that. And then she
Mm-hmm.
introduced me stuff to, like, Up the Ladder, the Monster Squad, stuff like that. Just getting the foot in the door.
Yeah.
And then it was, before people are listening, before you get the torches and pitchforks, I was in elementary school and she recommended The Exorcist, edited for TV. So we didn't have the crucifix fun, if you know what I'm talking about.
Right. Right.
But that's just where, like, it hit. And like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. There's just something about this dark macabre stuff that just kind of gets you excited, and you get that butterflies just watching it, and then you get to love these characters. Because I got something special for you with concerning Final Girls before we end this. I got a little game for you to play. But that's just like me. It was Mama that got me into horror too.
Yeah, that's my. I guess my mom kind of was like, if I'm gonna fool him about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all of this other
Yeah.
like kind of make believe stuff, then you know what? I might as well show him, horror too, because I like these movies. I like to be scared, and I'm gonna be scared with him, and he's gonna know it's gonna be all right. But yeah, I have a deep, deep, deep love affair for not just the situations in horror movie, but
Mm-hmm.
also the acting. Like I think that there is something very special about the type of acting that is in like horror.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to lose yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
especially with us coming from a generation of like practical effects,
Yep.
they had to really believe, that this gremlin was like, in the food processor,
Yeah.
and and it
They really blew
exploding.
something up in the fucking microwave. Yeah.
Right, right. So that actress in particular and several other actors and actresses in horror movies are some of my favorite people to watch. And like I find myself the replay value is not just the kills and the music and the atmosphere, but also some of these great performances that I'm like, oh my God, Miguel Nunez is awesome in this. Like, like
See, he's somebody that I love in general, whether it's a drama or something goofy like Black Dynamite when he's like Mo
hmm
Bitches
hmm
or something. But he is not above doing Return of the Living Dead, Friday the 13th 5, and even Leprechaun 4. You know what I mean?
indeed.
And
Yeah.
what I love about Miguel, especially Leprechaun 4, he knows what he's in. He plays with that, and he with his comedic timing, he's like, I can make this air quote stupid fucking movie fun. And he does.
Exactly. And that's what it's about. The same thing with wrestling, like at the 27th anniversary, we did a posthumous induction of Danny Havoc into
Yeah.
the Deathmatch Hall of Fame, and I was there for it. It was very emotional. And one thing that I can say about Danny is that he always wanted to remind us that we're doing this for fun, y'all.
Yes.
Like, let's not get our panties too much in a bunch
Mhm.
about this, that, and the third, because what brought us here is the fun factor of what we're doing. So let's just go fucking have fun, and
That's one thing I really want to get into. I haven't watched the show yet. I know it's on IWTV. You got it on your shirt right there, CZW.
yeah.
CCW, my time with it was before your time. I kind of zoned out right when DJ was kind of taking charge. So it was like right before you showed up. But CCW just hit 27 years, man. How does it feel for you who have been there for quite some time off and on? I mean, has it hit you? Like I can imagine how it's hit someone like DJ or the old schooler performers who's been there from the beginning, like say Nick Gage or Mickey or someone like that. How did it hit you? The fact that it was there, it's been around 27 years. It's making its resurgence. Like the deathmatch groups are talking about it again. You know what I mean? It looks like there's more passion being put into the product, and just the fact that it's still around, and that for an independent death match wrestling company. That's a big deal for 27 years. How does that feel being a part of that still?
I mean, I guess I was actually thinking about this earlier today. Early on, when I first started coming around Combat Zone,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was like, I guess I didn't see what was so special about it. Because it wasn't all deathmatch. There was some
Right.
really, technical and high flying wrestling in it as well. And at one point, I was kind of like, I really don't think this place is for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually was kind of ignorant of the legacy of like ECW, like kind of going into another echelon of production and you know global notoriety, and then
Sure.
out of the ashes of that, you get your JAPW, you get your ROH, you get your CZW, these kind of like little satellite organizations that are feeding that need for like this kind of like do it yourself on the ground wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of was just thinking to myself, wow, Larry, I'm glad you stuck with it and didn't just say, oh, this is just another one, just another company.
Yeah.
And a lot of that had to do with Ruckus.
Yeah.
Ruckus was the one who really introduced me to CZW, and kind of not wanting to let him down because I kind of immediately could tell how big of a deal he was in
Mm-hmm.
CZW, and I knew that with his recommendation, I was a reflection of him, and he was like excellence at the time. So like it's like I get to kind of shine with this guy who's already shining. I want to keep shining and not like be like, why'd you bring this guy around? He quit, I did not
Yeah.
want to be that. So I just kind of was thinking to myself, damn, Larry, I'm glad you didn't like burn your bridge or just be like, yeah, great,
Right.
thanks for the opportunity, but I stuck with it, made good impressions, to the point that like, now I kind of help run the shows. If that,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't mean I'm like in production or, on a headset barking orders or things like that, but like,
Sure.
I'm just like kind of like not only an MC, but a stage manager, like a high performing stage manager to make sure that like, all the pieces are moving. And if there's a little fire that needs to be put out, I get that information out real quick so we can do it. So I'm just glad that I was able to gain as much experience with um, three letters,
Mm-hmm.
CZW out of the ashes of ECW, you know what I mean? In the
Yeah.
same breath as ROH, you know what I
Yep.
mean? And MCW and JAPW. There's all these like companies that like 98, 99, like started doing it. And
Yeah.
some of them are still doing it. And
Yeah.
that is like that's like on the level of WrestleMania to me. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that these are small, like not WWF or WWE or AEW with these all these backers, but somehow or some way, somebody had enough passion and enough like we're not gonna let this end. And now you're at Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup. 27 and CZW 27. It's like it's wild. It's wild to me that CZW and ROH, and I wish JPW was still around. You still
Mm-hmm.
can like kind of live through that on IWTV, but some of these small indies like really did it. Like very punk rock, very the Ramones, very like and it's like that type of like, well, if you know, which is how
Yeah.
ECW used to be. Like,
Yeah.
it's like not everybody knows about ECW. So yeah, it made me feel really special. It made me feel old. And
Yeah.
it kind of like I don't know, it started to set in like how when I was young I would see the older guys come around. Now there's like a bunch of young guys and girls in the CZW locker room that are looking at me and Mickey and Nikki and
Mm-hmm.
like fucking they're like, oh, here come the old guys. Like they were here back when this was in the arena. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm the old guy now. Like it's
It's
wild to me. It's
it's
wild.
it's true because I got a local fed that literally runs 15-minute drive from my house, and I talked to the owner. Shout out to Windy City Pro Wrestling, based out of Chicago, and I
I
talk
heard
to
of
him all the time.
Windy City, of course.
Yeah, Christopher Daniels has been through there like the early 2000s. And he
Hmm.
tell and I know just what goes into the behind the scenes, the stress, the money, no shows, cancellations, last minute fixes, and again the fact that all those places that you've just mentioned are most of them are still around. especially in 2026. You know what I mean? And a lot of these indie shows are sometimes in the red because they keep their ticket prices affordable for the blue
Hmm.
collar family. You know what I mean? It's amazing that some of them are thriving. And me personally, I've been like I said, I now have been getting more into CZW since it's back and it's now on IWTV. But I remember the V8, the clamshell VHSs, TOD1. That was one of my first ever CZW shows, or the tape trading of the, I don't know if it was Zandig or Wife Beater falling through the ceiling on the tables that were on fire and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And TOD literally just had their 22nd edition last year. And it's just amazing how it's that little engine that could, and it's still going no matter what the difficulties have been.
Yeah, yeah. It's things like that. The fact that you can say TOD 22,
Uh huh.
and no matter, I don't care if you know what TOD is or what CZW is,
Mm-hmm.
anybody that understands like progression and like, volumes of things, like could be like, wow, whoever they are, they've done 22 of
Mm-hmm.
these of this thing. Like that is legit. No one can take away that all those years ago they started off with one, and who cares if it worked or not? But they said we're doing it again, Tournament of Death 2. And then, and it's like, okay, well, we did 2. Let's go with 3, And next thing you know, here we are, Tournament of Death 22.
Yeah, next thing you know, it's a literal fucking downpour, and Schlack and Joe Dredd are throwing each other off scaffolds in explosions. I want to know, you, the guy who's off to the side, you're doing the ring announcing, you're off to the side. What's going through your mind when, like, I don't know if you knew the explosion spot was going to happen or was scheduled or not, but when it's a downpour and Joe goes through that table and it explodes, like, is there a little bit of worry that something's going to fuck up with an explosion? And, like, if people don't know, like, by the end of it, there's a great shot of, in the middle of the canvas, it's this giant rain puddle that has turned red. And there's just this one picture of DJ. He's holding the winner's trophy and he's just looking down and he's like, what the fuck are we doing? You know what I mean? So was there anything going through your mind when you saw that explosion happen in a fucking typhoon? Like, because accidents do happen.
So I know the people who rig all of that stuff, and they've
Mm-hmm.
been doing it for a while now. Like I think
Okay.
for me it was Casey Kirk. I think
Mm-hmm.
she was Casey Catal at the time versus Jimmy Lloyd in the squared circle of sacrifice. Explosions went off, the fire alarm went off, and like ruined that whole main event. But like I don't have any fear about the explosions, or even those explosions, those types of explosions being like messed up by the rain.
Mm-hmm.
I was more concerned about like lightning. Like
Yeah.
I swear to you, I just feel like when you have a bunch of energy all in one area, and like we can't control that,
Right.
like branches, lightning, like sort of like the equipment that is being fit, like the electrical cords and stuff, like we had to keep
It
like
was
cover.
it was perfect timing, dude. Once Schlack got in there, you had this big boom of freaking thunder, dude. So shit's gonna happen. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's just one of those
yeah,
things in the back of my mind that I'm like, this might not end well. And deathmatch
yeah.
fan, I want the hoopla. You know what I mean? But I don't want the
Right.
guys to get hurt.
Right, you
Before
don't want them
just
to be like rushing, like you want a nice long finals to this, but like if we literally see a cyclone coming towards us, Schlack and Judge Joe Dredd is gonna be like, "Fuck this," and they're gonna be like, "Get the fuck out of here, y'all!"
yeah.
Like so, it's like it was perfect. Mother Nature was on our side for that event, and it just kind of is like, I don't know if you've ever worked in like the restaurant industry or retail during the holiday, but a lot of the times,
Yes.
like when you get through something that's like really hard and like looking at it, you're like, oh my god, we should just like stop the show, but we
Right.
don't, and we do it, and then afterwards everyone's just kind of like looking at each other like, wow, we just did that. And it's like you're the camaraderie is built where it's like we were soldiers. it felt like we were being bombarded by everything that could go wrong, but we still made it through to the end, brother. And I can't wait to do it with you again. You know,
Oh,
like
it was the perfect build-up because you have it's nice and shiny at the very beginning of the show, and I
Mhm.
don't know how long it is, in real time, but on IWTV it's maybe pushing 3 hours. Do you see the sky get darker and darker and darker, and then, like I said, you have the rain, and then it stops, and then you have the rain, and then it stops, and like I said, Judge Joe Jett, he's already walking out there and he's drenched. And then right when Schlack gets in there, of course, Schlack, no God, only Schlack. We have the thunder. He raises his arms, and like anything can freaking happen. It's kind of like a movie, the way I looked at it, though, with the
it,
weather, dude.
it 100% was, and I came back to CZW, a guest appearance for last year's Cage of Death. It was
Mm-hmm.
last year's Cage of Death. And, I just kind of came back for that, but they told me the show after that was the anniversary show. So they were like, we'd love to have you at the anniversary too. And then before you know it, it was like, TOD's coming up and, we got to have that same kind of like huge feel, So I just remember a lot of staff were like thanking me. Like they were thanking me for kind of like adding just that little extra, like, this is a
Oomph.
big fucking
Yeah.
deal. Larry Legend's back in the fucking combat zone for the thing. It's pouring rain, like, so I again, like, with the 27th anniversary and TOD and just everything that CZW has been able to accomplish all these years later,
Mm-hmm.
it just makes me feel like very, very special and privileged to like have gotten in, because I could have met, I don't know if the Ruckus was in ROH, but I could have met someone that was kind of like far into the ROH, a Reptitus or someone that was like a cheeseburger. I could have
Mm-hmm.
met them and they could have gotten me right in with the Gabe and Sid and
Right.
Carrie crowd, but I linked up with Ruckus and that's how I got to know Zandig and DJ and
Yep.
Maven and now all these years later I'm still repping that CZW. It feels
It,
good.
it it's good to it's good to see you back on a more regular occasion, dude. It really is. And I like you said, I said you bring that oomph, and a lot of it is your interview, or not your interview, your introduction style. And whether it's I love it how you lots of there are times where you don't show yourself being impartial. Like when Brandon and Casey Kirk were first starting out in early ICW, you would be like Casey would be in her uber bitch mode, and she'd snatch the microphone from you, and your air quotes just lowly Larry Legend, the ring announcer. You'll snatch it back, tell her to shut the fuck up, call her a bitch and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
Or just at this last TOD when Joe Dredd was coming out, and it's Stephen Jury, right? That's his name, the guy
That's
that comes out.
yes.
You said
Yeah.
being accompanied by that worthless piece of shit, Stephen Jury. It's just stuff like that adds to, like you said, the fun factor of these shows because we don't know what Larry's gonna say. And when I was trying to do some research on you by watching previous interviews, is it true you got the way you enunciate people's names by when you were younger watching the Arsenio Hall show?
Okay. So that it's not the enunciation, but it's the holding of the note. Like
Okay.
Arsenio. I've done myself no favors being a smoker because I
Mm-hmm.
can't I can't really hold my notes out as long as I once did, and that's
Mm-hmm.
my fault. But I used to try to like do it as long as the announcer was doing it. Like Arsenio would be standing behind the curtain and like you see a silhouette and everyone's woo 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 and the announcer's just going Arsenio. And as a little kid, I used to try to like do it as long, and eventually I could just by
Yeah.
taking a big enough breath. It's kind of like how I taught myself, like when you're gonna do a long one, you got to get enough breath to be able to get it out and hold it. So, but I mean, I used to announce my figures. Hold on, stop! God damn it, stop! You can't play with me all the time. Now look at you. Do you see what you did? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, Larry. And for the people just listening to the audio later, I am not giving any context into Larry's comments. You can imagine what he's who he's talking to.
Yeah, my baby, my new kitten. I have a new baby, and
You're all good, dude. You're all
yeah,
good. You're all
she's
good.
just all over the place because she hears my voice, so she thinks that means, oh, it's playtime.
My friend,
But
every 2 weeks on Sundays, I do a podcast with my friend Melissa, and she has a blind dog and another dog, and
oh
we
wow,
live stream. And if they're barking, we just roll with it. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
she's always like, shut up, the whole thing. So don't worry about it, man.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you're gonna probably be getting a little bit out of that from me because this kitten is a baby, so everything is exciting and new, and it wants to jump on everything and be a part of the podcast and pick its spots where it wants to like just put its claws in my knee, like and jump up and be like, "Hey, I'm here!" Like I'm like, okay, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't even know where we were going.
We were talking about
Oh, my
your
style.
introduction
So
style. Yeah.
yeah, I guess like I'm really into voices and I'm
Mm-hmm.
really into like the way that voices can make you feel. So, for example, Paul Heyman as Paulie Dangerously, and in particular like when he would like really get into cutting promos as the Dangerous Alliance, or I got to kind of get a glimpse of his like backstage speech at that one ECW show right before the pay-per-view. Like
Yeah.
there's like a quality or an effect that we as humans can like add to like our words and the way that we say them and kind of like ride this rhythm of life that makes it like almost impossible to not be listening.
Mm-hmm.
Another person that does that so well, RIP, the legend Tony Todd. I just feel like
Yes.
that no matter what dialogue Tony Todd ever was given to like chew over, he was able to master it to the point that it was like, oh, just keep talking, like, so, you
Tony
know,
Todd has one of those voices, like other than like Sam Elliott. I've always joked when I die, if I have an autobiography, I want either Sam Elliott or Tony Todd to read it. So I sound that cool. You know what I mean? What was great about Tony Todd, it doesn't matter if he is in a drama because he was a stage actor, an action movie, Candyman, or a really bad B horror movie. He always brought that elegance with his voice. You know what I mean? Just the way he talked.
I know, I feel you. It's almost like, and I feel this about me as well. And I'm, not to toot my own horn, but it's
Oh,
almost
good.
like Tony Todd elevates. Like any
Yes.
project that he's in, it's like, oh, Tony Todd's in this. Like, okay, I'm all eyes and ears now.
Mm-hmm.
Just that little thing. And sometimes people are like, "What the fuck about Tony Todd?" I'm like, oh, "You don't know Tony Todd."
Exactly.
Same with Larry. It's like, "Oh, Larry's doing this show. Oh, this is gonna be awesome now." And people are like, "What? What the fuck, Larry? What do you mean?" And he's like, "Oh, you'll see." And that's all that kind of like intangible that you add to the pop that is what you deliver. So look, just listening to other master speakers that have
Mm-hmm.
mastered again that rhythm of saying things. Jesse Ventura,
Yeah. Bobby
even
Heenan.
as Bobby Heenan, even as far as like the announcements are concerned, Howard Finkel,
Mm-hmm.
like just something as simple as, oh, she's doing it again. Yeah, I'm gonna put you out of this room. I'm gonna put you out of this room. Stop. Don't act that way. Now you act like you're scared. Bobby Heenan, Howard Finkel, the way that
Howard
he would
Fink.
say, "Wait, ladies and gentlemen," like it was like kind of like it's like, oh, not just ladies and gentlemen, but attention. Like it's like almost like a chime of like, everyone alert, we've got to listen to Howard now.
Or when there was a title change, he would always say, "And the new." The emphasis on the word "new." You know what I
Yep,
mean? It
yep.
brings the importance to it, and that's what I like. And what I like about you is like you definitely are selling the importance of the way the fight is and the people involved because you got your shirt right there. One of your sayings is it's about to go down. You know, the
Yeah.
way you have that raspy voice. You go from enunciating and it's this big grandiose thing with the wrestlers, but when it's the main event time, it's about to go down. Like you get that raspy razor blade voice. You know what I
And
mean?
and think about like how I sounded at the beginning of Tournament of Death when it was all bright and sunny. like I'm ringing hell's bells, but in the daytime for Akira and Hoodfoot. And then
Yeah.
by the time we get to the end, it's like we're in the fucking blood rain. I'm like, it's like I can hardly even talk. And I remember, sorry,
You're fine.
a lot of the times I get really hard on myself. I get really
Hmm.
hard on myself. Like when I did Judge Joe Dredd's intro, I had a lot more breath and I had a lot more oomph left in this tank to get all of his shit out. Then when I got to Schlack, the thunder helped.
Yeah.
And his opponent, like that really
Yeah.
helped, like, to kind of support me. But like, I remember doing his intro. It was like, to me, it was like one of the worst intros I ever did for him. But Schlack was like, no, dude, that made it better. He was like,
Yeah.
that made it better. The fact that, like, you're at the end of your rope. This is the finals. We can hardly stand. There's rain. Larry can hardly even announce anymore. He's like, that all added to it. And I couldn't think of a better way to be introed for that type of match at this type of event with everything going on. Like you said, it's like a movie. It's like a
Yeah.
movie, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Schleck. I love that crazy fucker. Coming soon to the show. We're gonna get date set soon, but can't wait to talk to him. Um, let's talk about Ruckus. He was one of those, like, CCW, and we also talked to ECW. It's not just a deathmatch company, and that's I think that's the problem when you watch a company that has death matches. It has when it's not all death matches. Say like Big Japan or ICW. When it has a mixture of everything, it still has that stigma. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And people like Ruckus, or from my days watching the SAT Spanish announce team,
Yep,
even
yep.
somebody like Nick Burke or something like that. That you had the traditional stuff. I remember some of the stuff. Like I was drawn to Ruckus. I for whether it was his feud with Rock and Rebel and all that stuff that
That's
people
how he
pushing.
broke in. That's
Yeah,
that's how he got noticed.
yeah,
Yeah.
that stuff like that. Or I'm not. He was. I don't want to say he was a bigger guy, but he wasn't muscular at the time. But he could
Yeah.
do those fucking flips, and he could do anything, and that's what really drawn me to the non-deathmatch stuff. People, it now has its own stigma. The flippy shit, whatever. I don't care. Some people like flippy shit. Okay, Ruckus was great because he reminded me of like a John Cronus. A guy that's kind of more stocky. You know what I mean? But the
Right.
motherfucker can do a 450.
Yep. Yep.
How did you actually meet Ruckus? Was it just you just met him at a show, or were you friends before you got in the business? How was that?
So I was born and raised in Baltimore,
Okay.
um, which is also where Ruckus was born and raised. But we lived on two opposite ends of Baltimore City.
Hmm.
That requires about, I'd say, close to a half an hour drive. And it just so turns out that around the time that I was doing my own backyard wrestling fed,
Okay.
Ruckus was also doing his own backyard wrestling fed in his part of Baltimore. And, we both tried to get our shit on cable access. I think
Of course.
Ruckus got his.
Yeah.
We weren't as successful. We always would film it, had character sound, commentating, just like the most irreverent commentating that you could ever imagine. Just like the crowd would essentially be the commentators, like just shouting things out as our show went on. But fast forward, again, just like with how ROH and CZW has been around because somebody was like passionate enough about it, being like, yo, I got to do more. Ruckus and I both were kind of on our opposite ends of Baltimore City. Like, I can't just keep doing this in my backyard. I've got to like
Yeah.
do it. And we both like kind of pursued paths to get to where we were on the same show together. And
Hmm.
that's what happened is that years after doing backyard, years after Ruckus touring the world, and
Hmm.
me pretty much only primarily existing in MCW, my first company, MCW Maryland Championship Wrestling is what it was called at the time. Eventually, they finally mended a bridge with Ruckus and brought him in, and it was the first time that I did his intro.
Okay.
That he was like, "Oh, this guy, he's got it right. Like he knows how to do my intro the way that it's supposed to be done." And like after the match, he was like, dude, you have no idea how many announcers screw my intro up. He's like, it's so easy. The Jake the Snake of getting baked, the Teddy Long of hitting the bong, the Vinnie Mac of the dime sack, and the Bruce Lee of ooh wee. And
Yeah.
he was like, but that last part, the
Yep.
ooh wee, he was like, that's the most important part. And he was like, and you would never imagine how many announcers like, and they're like, and the Bruce Lee of ooh wee, and like, and I'm like, no, idiot, it's like ooh wee. It's for the weed smokers. It's for the
Yeah.
potheads, which is what his gimmick was. And
Hmm.
he just kind of lavished all this shit on me, and I was like, man, I've never seen anyone wrestle like you. I was like, I can't believe that you can move like that, and like you guys were moving so fast. It was like it was him versus Derek Frazier,
Oh, okay.
CZW alum as well. That Derek Frazier, and you know, he said to me, "You got to come to CZW with me." All in this same conversation after I announced him for the first time, he was like, "You got to come to CZW with me," and I was like, I don't even know what CZW is, but hell yeah, guy, I'm just meeting for the first time. That's an awesome wrestler. I'll go with you. And I don't know. I guess it was like MySpace days, or like I don't even
Oh,
know if there
geez,
was
you're really
Facebook.
dating us now, dude.
Yeah, well, it was like communication wasn't like I could just send him a message. Like right
Right.
now, I'll send him a message. I didn't have his number,
Hmm.
and we kept missing each other. But somehow or another, I think MCW did another show with him on it, and he's like, "Hey man, remember what I said about CCW? You gotta come." And I was like, "All right, man. How? I'm like, how do I come to CCW?" He's like, "It's in Philly, just like every second Saturday or something." He's like, "Just show up." He was like, "I'm telling you, just show up. I'll get you on. You'll be my announcer." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll try." Like in the back of my mind, thinking, I got a good thing going with MCW.
Right.
MCW does these like bi-monthly shows. I think I was living in New York at the time. I was living in New York City and just kind of commuting down to Baltimore to see my family and do the Maryland Championship Wrestling shows. And finally, somehow, one time he wrangled me in. And he's like, "Look, just be there. Just promise me you'll be there. I'm going to introduce you to John." Didn't even know who John was,
Uh,
and like, and I took a Chinatown bus from New York City to Philly. And then I think I thought I could walk to the arena, which you can. At the
hmm.
time, I wasn't in like that good a shape, but then I stopped and got a cab, and I got there, and Ruckus just kind of walked me around and introduced me to everyone. Was like, "This is my guy. He's gonna announce me tonight. Wait till you see him. Wait till you hear him." And like, just like selling me in front of people as they're all like looking me up and down, like, "Hey, guy,"
Yeah.
and I obviously went out there the first time as Blackout's personal announcer and killed it.
Yep.
And then Ruckus was like, "You gotta come every time." And I did. I came. I think two more times. I came two more times to like just be the personal announcer of Blackout for shows. And I think the first time I came there was like '06. It was either
Hmm.
'06 or '07. There was a show called Last Team Standing. Human Tornado was there for that too. I believe that was Human Tornado's debut. Last Team Standing. And then there was a show that was called It Out with the Old, In with the New. I
Okay.
did that one as well. That was another one. And then there was one other one, and I can't track down that show, but I'm pretty sure I came three times before eventually they like, well, first of all, Ruckus and I started seeing each other a lot more frequently, because then it was kind of like I was doing MCW and CZW, and like, we were just talking and chilling and hanging out, and he's putting me on to other different types of companies that he worked for. It's like, "I'm trying to get you in there. I'm gonna try to get you in there." And before
Awesome.
long, I started doing shows up in New York. Like my origins as an announcer, I really was in New York, based in New York, doing shows in Philly and Maryland. I wasn't even doing any shows in New York. I lived in New York and worked in New York, but all of my shows were like kind of out of the city, But eventually, I started doing NYWC out on Long Island. It used to be kind of like Mikey Whipwreck's company,
Okay.
is what people used to kind of associate NYWC with Mikey Whipwreck, and then that just opened up the gates for me to do like kickboxing, Muay Thai, all different types of wrestling companies, like so. But yeah, it all started with Ruckus, me meeting him at that show, an MCW show, and him just flat out saying, "You gotta come to CZW with me." That is the quote. He's like, "You gotta come to CZW with me." And like and then once I got there, I was like, "Oh, he's a huge deal here. Like he's got all these other guys with him. He's got mad belts. Chrissy's here. He's got a girl. I fit with this. Like now you've got your own announcer. I should be going to the ring with these guys as like
Yeah.
taking the mic from the regular announcer. Like, no, 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 no. Look at this. Look at me. Okay? And this is how you should sound. And then go into the intro, and turn it into a deal. So yeah, it's all Ruckus. Ruckus gets the props for me being in this Hall of Fame, for the
Hmm.
catchphrase, for everything, because if it wasn't for him being like, you got to come to CZW with me, like I said, I probably would have just stuck around MCW
Yeah.
and just been like, this is a good deal. Every 2 months, I get to go home, do a show, go back to New York, get to go home, do a show, but because I went to CZW with Ruckus like he wanted me to, I'm talking to you right now
Yeah.
about the past, decade and more, so.
It's awesome just how you can just meet one person and then like you said, you pointed to the plaque. You're in the CZW Hall of Fame. I did watch that before we went live. It was cool that Ruckus was there with you.
Oh,
Uh
I said no other way. I said he's got to
yeah,
be there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was a very nice induction, and I was glad I was able to watch it. And congrats to you, man. For
yeah.
for earning it. I really, you really deserve it, dude. Because like I said, you bring that little bit more to the importance of the matches with
Yes.
the way you announce everything, and
Yeah.
that is needed. Like I said, like we said with like Howard Finkel, the way he would say "and new" and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
congratulations for
Yeah.
your induction.
And again, also just like to take it back to like, Heather Langenkamp's performance as like Nancy, like those things are the things that like make you want to watch part three and like, want to come back. And I just think that like everybody has their role and
Hmm.
everybody can play their role so that it all is like a masterpiece. Like it's all
Hmm.
like everybody has their little role, and you can kind of harmonize with the roles and make it like just like something so memorable that people like talk about it and follow it for like 27 years and are like, oh, CZW is still around. Oh, do they still do Tournament of Death? It's like, yeah, they still do Tournament
Yeah.
of Death. Get the fuck out, like it's
They must be doing something right if they've been around for nearly 30 fucking years. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That says a lot.
Well,
Go ahead.
again. So look, this is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, out of the ashes of ECW, which was like kind of like one of the most hardcore fan bases, that was
Yeah.
like, we fuck with this, the tribalism, is
Yeah.
essentially what I'm saying. Like, we're into that, but ours is like this. Like,
Hmm.
ours is the real shit that they were bleeding in. You don't always get that over there. You're guaranteed it over here.
Yep.
It makes it, so it's like, I think that is so important for like WWE and AEW, the bigs as they're called, to even exist. And I do
Hmm.
feel that they watch everything we do. You just saw the syringes and the
Yeah.
tubes. We just saw them because they watch everything, and a lot of them have been participants in it, and are like,
Well,
oh,
they had they had they had Nick Gage against Jericho. You know what I mean?
indeed, yeah,
Obviously, they're watching. If no offense to Nick Gage, if they're not watching, they might not know who Nick Gage was. You know what I mean? So they bring him on for this little story with Jericho. For with the pizza cutter and stuff like that. So
well,
they're
well, well,
definitely somebody's definitely watching.
Well, here's the thing. Also, there's an interesting thing about that is that MJF is the conduit. MJF, former CZW World Champion, he was the one who
Okay.
made who he was the one that like picked Jericho's poison, or was
Hmm.
like, it was 3 weeks of him like picking like, you got to do this now,
Hmm.
and that second week it was like he bought Nick out to be like, you'll be fighting him next,
Yeah.
So, and then with the tubes and the syringes, that was another MJF
Yeah.
stunt. So
Yeah.
it's like MJF and Swerve and a lot of these guys, they came through CZW and were in some pretty bloody, violent battles,
Yeah.
So it's like,
It happens. It's I know it seems like it's 50-50. Some people want deathmatch wrestling to stay that little niche. Others are happy that it's making it somewhat to the mainstream with AEW. Where do you fit?
okay, so it's funny. Someone was
If you
just on,
understand what I'm trying,
yeah,
what the
I know
question.
it's, so, okay, I was in that movie, The Wrestler,
Hmm.
okay, and for me, the best scene in that entire movie was Necro's scene.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Staple gun.
Right. So, like, I almost feel that it needs to remain underground
Okay.
and kind of like niche, but I am not opposed to more eyes discovering it and like
Gotcha.
joining the cult, if you will, of
Hmm.
like, like, yeah, but I gotta follow this, So I feel like that as big as it gets, and I don't know if AEW will eventually have an offshoot show that's like a all ultraviolet review or anything like that. I
Sure.
don't know if that'll happen, but if it does, I wouldn't be mad. I
Okay.
would be glad. I would be glad that, this is something that I helped kind of plow the road for and drop little seeds all the way up to Mox getting signed. And I feel like
Yeah.
Mox was one of the first ones to really bring a lot of this like kind of like let's do blood,
Yeah.
and I know why. I know why, because I know where you come from and the types of matches he thrives doing and does the
Hmm.
best. So it's like I'm not mad at it getting a huge platform, and I don't feel that like I'm slighted or anything like
Okay.
that because I'm still doing it, and everybody knows our shows are the best.
Hmm.
Everybody knows Tournament of Death, was fucking 5-star this year, and the
Yes, it
27th
was.
anniversary show, the Ultraviolet show, was like 5 stars this year. It's like no time to rest. Quick cleanup. Larry's talking to us. Oh, that match was awesome. Oh, this match was. Oh, everything is awesome. Like that's what we want. So
Everything about that show was great. From like I said, you and I can't think of the female ring announcer's name, but
Rosaria.
okay, announcing everybody in the beginning, and then Joe and Nick getting in their little scuffle before everybody left the ring. Even it was a short match, but it was an important match. First time Mickey Knuckles and Ricky Shane Page wrestled, in a
Yep.
death match. That's a big fucking deal. And my daughter, she's 13 now. She's gonna be 14 next month. She's seen death matches. You know what I mean? She grew up watching it with me. This was the first time she actually sat down and watched it actual, like, from beginning to end. She'd come in, she'd see Dr. Redacted, do his garbage can thing, and then she'd leave. She sat down because she loves Mickey Knuckles. She loves
Yeah.
seeing a female kick the shit out of a
Uh
man type
huh.
of thing. And she loved that match. And one thing I want to give a shout out to Ricky Shane Page is he knows how to be an asshole, but he can tell a story. And he's one of those guys you just love to hate. And my daughter, like, she's getting into the violence now, like that. There's that one camera shot of Ricky with the piece of glass all the way through his finger, and she's like, "Oh my god!" And then she couldn't believe where it kept going. So that one of the best events, I would think, independent wrestling that I've seen last year was TOD. So props to every single person involved.
Yeah.
Fantastic show.
It really was it really was, and it really takes the right combo of a crew to
Hmm.
just fucking like let's do this and nothing's gonna stop us, and we had the perfect mixture of workers for that show for it to just be stellar and really kind of like I don't know. Cage of Death last year was a very poor turnout. I don't even. It was a very poor turnout, and
Hmm.
Cage of Death used to be kind of like in the same breath as Tournament of Death as being CZW's biggest turnout shows of a year.
Right.
Both of those shows consistently 1,000 souls would assemble for them at least. And
Hmm.
then a lot of times it was up to 14 or 15. And fuck, some people say up to 2 for some of the past ones, but whatever. A lot of folks. So
Yeah.
Cage of Death really was, I don't want to say it was a dud, but it was the new building in Atlantic City. I think it was on a Sunday or
Hmm.
something, and just kind of was like a CZW,
Yeah.
you know. So Tournament of Death really kind of like was those like clear,
Yep. Yeah.
clear,
Yep.
So
Okay, one
I
thing I want to talk to you about outside of wrestling, well, in wrestling, but outside of wrestling, is how did you hook up with the Boulevard Bullies? Was it through them being XPW fans, were you a part of their show before that, or how did that work out?
So I met the Boulevard Bullies at ICW New York. Before it was No Holds Barred, it was
Oh,
ICW
okay.
New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they knew me
Okay.
because they actually used to go to Tournament of Death and Cage of Death. They would pilgrimage from New York to Philly or Delaware or wherever
Mm-hmm.
and just get wasted and watch deathmatch wrestling, and find their way home. But we kind of hit it off at an ICW New York show
Okay.
when they were just kind of like the most boisterous fans in the crowd, like just like heckling, but like at the right time so that everybody in the crowd would be laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would heckle their barbs at quiet parts during the match, not to take away from the match, but to kind of make sure everyone was still having a good time. Like,
Yeah.
chin lock. It's quiet, clap, 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 clap. Oh, I think he's gonna go out or something like at the perfect time, and everyone would, So I kind of like went up to them, and I'm like, "Who the hell are you guys?" And they're like, "Oh, They weren't the Boulevard Bullies at the time.
Right.
They were just fans." And it actually was a GCW owner, Brett Lauderdale, who the next ICW show at the Queensborough's Elks Lodge that was at, he was like, "Oh, I see the Boulevard Bullies are back." And I'm like, "The who?" And he's like, "Those fans that were all beating on the wall and all shit faced last time." And I'm like, "The Boulevard Bullies, eh?" I then in turn on the microphone at that show was like, "And I see the Boulevard Bullies have returned." They were like, "Yeah, we're here," in the front row. And
Yeah.
that is how the beauty of our relationship started. And since that initial christening them the Boulevard Bullies, there have been many iterations of the group, but one constant has been Pat, the
Mm-hmm.
leader of the Boulevard Bullies
Yeah.
by default. Pat, so he's always been present as a Boulevard Bully and kind of like took that bestowing of the name thought of by the genius of madness that is Brett Lauderdale when he was ref Brett Lauderdale.
Yep.
I said it, I spoke it, and now we have Boulevard Bullies versus the World every Tuesday night at 7 on YouTube.
And I didn't know they had a YouTube show. I'm like every now and then like they would pop up in my feed on YouTube, like they're outside, talking to people and stuff like that outside
Yeah.
the arena. And the first time I found out about them was, I don't know if it was your first show, but it was with we'll say the incident with ICW NHB when you left. We
Yes.
don't need to get into that. We don't need to get into that. That's
Yes.
that's that's long gone. But it was a very good interview. And then in the next episode, they had another guest. And then the next episode, they had another guest. And you were a constant. And I'm not gonna lie. I like Pat Gins. He has his good moments. He has his bad.
I mean, he's
But
bad take Bride.
yeah, when he's good, he's good. When he's bad, I'm like, motherfucker, just shut up. But
Yeah,
you're
everybody.
the guy I would want.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody is. One thing I wanted to ask you, it was because, like I said, they always have guests. There was one time where they had a certain someone scheduled, and they didn't know that he canceled until I literally put it in the chat. When Ian Rotten canceled. Some
Yes,
bullshit
yes.
story about cat allergies or whatever, and it was live, and I was waiting because I know there'd be some interesting questions asked. And they literally said, "Hey, Internet Eric here, breaking news. Ian Rotten is canceling tonight's appearance, blah, blah, blah." The one thing I wanted to ask you is you seemed legit ticked off, disappointed, and you said you had some things you were going to ask him. You don't have to if you don't want to, but what were you gonna throw at Ian if you don't mind?
Well, he's from Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
like me, and the rumor is that he moved to Indianapolis because of how many people he ripped off at his time being a Baltimorean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so basically the rumor is that Ian was kind of run out of Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Axel was Baltimore until the day that he died.
Yeah.
But Ian, back in the day, I heard he would like open up schools and take deposits for training people. And then the first day of training, they get to the school and it's like the door's locked and like there's no lights on, and you know so I guess I wanted to like talk to him about the lore of
Okay.
Ian, and
Hmm.
if that reputation he feels is a little founded or grossly exaggerated, and that's just been something that's followed him his whole life. And I'm sure he would have told me I go back to Baltimore all the time for the O's. I'm sure he probably would have told me that, but I didn't get a chance to. And I was looking forward to it. I was
Okay.
looking forward to it because when you talk about Maryland wrestling,
Hmm.
and you talk about the Mount Rushmore, we talk about that a lot on Boulevard Bullies versus the World. Who is our Mount Rushmore of horror, a Mount Rushmore of deathmatch? I mean, the bad breed of Ian and Axel Rotten, especially as it pertains to like deathmatch wrestling and like what I kind of have fallen into, also being from Baltimore, they kind of hold a pretty significant place
Yeah.
for us to be able to be like, Tori Amos, John Waters, Rick Swan, like I can just go down a litany of people that have roots in Baltimore. So I kind of was looking forward to talking to him about Baltimore, where he grew up, like what where he trained and
Hmm.
how he linked with Axel and who got him and Axel together and was like, you guys look like brothers, and
Yeah.
all of that. I kind of wanted to pick his brain a little bit, but
Okay.
yeah, it never came to be. Thanks for giving us the Iggy about that, because we would have been probably like, "Where's Ian? Where's Ian?" I'm
Yeah.
sending him messages.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious. I was just curious of what was going to say, and if anyone wants to know that that's a rabbit hole, you guys can go down your on your own time, or we'd be here for all fucking night. One last thing, wrestling wise, and then I want to get into some horror.
Sure,
Were you there for the uninitiated people? Were you there for Nick Gage's incident at TOD where he had to be helicoptered out?
indeed, I was.
Okay, can you explain to because Patrick's in the chat and he is getting introduced to deathmatch wrestling. He just interviewed Madman Pondo about a month ago, so he's getting into what goes through it. And he's like all newbies. He's like, what the fuck? What if something bad happens? Can you explain to someone like Patrick or any other newbie listening what exactly happened to Nick that night?
I sure can. It was the finals of Tournament of Death. It came down to Thumbtack Jack versus Nick Gage. There is a effect that happens at the end of a lot of deathmatch tournaments where they lace light tubes through
Hmm.
the ropes or sometimes through barbed wire, which gives a beautiful effect of just kind of like white walls. Like
Yes.
you're kind of you're encased in a white wall of glass with these fluorescent light tubes that have been laced through all of the ropes and kind of create like a fence or gate or some sort of visual. It's just beautiful, honestly.
Hmm.
It takes
Yeah.
takes a long time to do it, but they get it done lickety split, and then you kind of get that like, oh, look at this, look at our work here.
I've been
So
on one side
anyway,
of that in Berwyn. It was Murdoch and I think Hoodfoot. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That shit's gonna fly. So it looks pretty until it's all shooting at you.
exactly. Well, very early on in the match, I think it was like Nick went to throw Thumbtack Jack, and Thumbtack Jack did the side steps to where he was behind Nick, and he threw him out
Hmm.
through the light tubes that were like laced. He
Right.
tossed him through. I'm pretty sure that was the spot. And as Nick like careened out of the ring, to like fall on his ass on the ground,
Hmm.
like one of the light tubes that he crashed through like kind of like made like a steak. Like it just
Hmm.
it just like fell perfectly so that it was a sharp end up. He went
Hmm.
through it, sharp end up. It fell. Gravity brought him down, and that light tube went right up underneath his arm. When his butt hit the ground, the light
Yeah.
tube hit the ground, kind of like stuck in its place, and his arm came down and it sliced right up underneath all
Yeah.
this
Like right
tender
in
part.
literally right in the armpit. Right.
Yeah, right in the armpit. And I wasn't watching Nick, but I've watched the footage several times.
Hmm.
He lifts his arm up, kind of like, how bad is this? And
you
the
just see it.
second, dude, the second he sees it, he puts that arm down and he's like, "Oh shit!" And
Yeah,
he just starts walking.
yeah,
And I can only imagine what, because once you start walking, your blood is pumping, your heart is pumping, your legs, everything's moving. I can only imagine how fast he could probably feel it coming down the side of his body and
hmm
pulling up on his pants and everything. But yeah, it was a wild, wild moment, and it was kind of a moment where we just saw that footage of that referee Dallas and
yeah,
OVW, where it's kind of like something's not right here,
exactly.
but Nick was clear-minded enough and mobile enough to be like, I'm getting myself to the back because
Yeah,
this looks like this is deadly. This
right.
is deadly.
hmm
And it was because apparently he died in the helicopter. He just, it took so long. It seemed like it took forever, and he was just bleeding out, bleeding out, bleeding out. I think they were just sticking gauze up underneath
Yeah,
his up underneath to stop the blood. But on the helicopter ride over, he was legally pronounced dead, and they revived him because they got him to the hospital in time, or I don't know, had blood on the I don't know, but
yeah,
he survived it, thank God. But that is a tournament of death where someone actually kind of died.
hmm
You know,
yeah. It's scary shit, and that's why I always tell traditional and deathmatch wrestlers when I meet them in person, I'm able to get out of my bubble. Like I remember, meeting Mickey for 10 seconds or Dr. Redacted. I always make sure that I say thank you for what you guys do to your body for our entertainment. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because a lot of people, like, if you don't see it up close and personal, you don't realize how bad it is. Like, he's now, formerly Insane Lane Bloody. He was very lucky with his back injury. I don't know if you saw
Oh,
how
I
that
did.
happened
Yes,
recently. It
indeed.
was
Yeah,
very scary. So, shout out to wrestlers, like traditional and deathmatch wrestlers, what they do to their body for our entertainment and what people don't realize. It's a big deal.
yeah.
So,
And with that lane spot, I'm pretty sure that somebody identified like exactly where it happened. It's just like a glass, a pane of glass.
yeah.
Take a back bump or hip toss or
Yeah,
like
I think he was
spin.
hip tossed into the corner where the pain was, and it's
Yeah,
the way he reacted, kind of like Nick. The way he reacted, he was screaming, and it wasn't a selling scream. It was like, "Pin me, we're done," type of thing. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But like, I guess my point is that we kind of have seen people get tossed into panes of glass so much,
yeah,
and for them to be able to continue. But like, there's always that potential that someone could really get their fucking back sliced open
yep.
really bad.
hmm
And I hate when that reminder happens in real life. And
Yeah.
luckily, yeah, they got Lane out of there in Houston into a medical
hmm
facility. Yeah. I actually, am working on kind of a little feature project that, hopefully it's just kind of something that we talked about where I'm gonna
Sure.
talk about like kind of like some of the five deadliest moments in my time of
hmm
CZW. And that's going on the list. That one
Yeah.
right there is going on the list because I think it was probably the first time that I was like kind of like, I don't know, scared, like really scared at a wrestling show for someone's health and safety, and it just or that they wouldn't die. Honestly, it just took so long
Yeah.
for the helicopter, and I believe people started to try to leave. Like as soon as it happened, people like tried to start getting their cars and leave, so the ambulance couldn't get in, and that's
Right.
why they had to medevac them. Like,
Yeah, because I remember I remember hearing ring announcements like saying, "Please
yeah,
don't leave. We need to get the ambulance in here."
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Yeah. So it was a very scary moment for me, and yeah, it's not anything. I'm so glad he lived. I'm so
Yeah.
glad he lived, dude. Like,
It's just scary shit. Well, we're gonna go from one horror film to another. Your love of horror, Larry. That's like I said, the main thing you and I chat about online. You already talked about how your mama introduced you, mine introduced me. One thing I'm always like a champion for underrated horror films. You know what I mean? Like I'm
sure,
wearing a Phantom Prowler shirt, Nightmare on Elm Street 5. He's fighting
right on. Yes,
Super Freddy.
yes.
what is one horror film that you hold the torch for? Like everyone seems to fucking hate it except for Larry Legend. What's one thing that you're like, hey, you guys may hate it? And I hate the term guilty pleasure. Be proud of what you like. What's one horror film that it seems like you're in the minority of really enjoying?
Okay, so I'm not by myself. I'm not by myself. But a lot of the times I find that Return of the Living Dead, like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people are like, they're confused, like, am I supposed to be laughing at this? Like it's
I can see that.
it's humorous and it's horrific, but they're kind of like, I like my zombies like 28 days later, where there's nothing funny about this situation
They
at
want
all. Like
straight
it's
up scary shit.
right. So I've had some kind of like, oh, that movie's trash, or like, what
Really?
is the, oh yeah, I've had some people that, when I've been like, oh, you got to see Return of the Living Dead, they're like, you like this shit, and I'm like, dude, this is like one of the best movies ever. And again, going right back to that acting factor. These actors had to have been committed to this 100% silly shit. And
Yes.
actually, I just found out that the older actors were like, yo, let's play this super serious. Let's
Yes.
like play this, you know what I mean? Let's play this like this is actually happening, like, and read the dialogue like heightened. And that only makes it so much better, because then you have all the young actors who are reading the lines like so shittily. It's just, again, the harmony of it. So I feel like that sometimes when I talk about my affinity and love for Return of the Living Dead, I get some people who are like, dude, that movie is so dumb, or I can't believe you're into that, like, or hold it on such a pedestal.
I think it's just the opposite of dumb. I think it's so smart and people don't realize it. I've heard. I'm very late to the party with that one. I saw it for the first time in the maybe last 10 years,
Right
and
on, yeah.
it's in the horror community. It's super. It's on that pedestal. I'm like, all right, is it gonna be over fucking hyped? I loved it from beginning to end. You have the group of punkers, but then you have two people that aren't dressed like punkers, but they're part of the group. You
Right,
literally
right.
have two characters named Bert and Ernie, and
Uh-huh.
one of the fucking zombies is yellow like Bert. You know what
Right.
I mean? Stuff like that. And you mentioned like the older actors like Clu Gulager, who was one of the leads. He's from old timey westerns and
Yep.
stuff like that. But
Yep.
like to do a complete 180, let's go to like the Naked Gun movies. You know why Leslie Nielsen is so fucking funny? Because he's playing it like a straight man. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And
Exactly.
I
And that,
absolutely a shout out to again Miguel Nunez. He's so good at that movie.
so good. And I'm glad you brought up, like, kind of like, or we're talking about the old timers, because look at like a Betsy Palmer,
Yeah.
and they add that kind of gravitas to the thing, where you're like, oh, this is not no phony shit. Donald Pleasance in
Mm-hmm.
Halloween, dude. It's like, oh my god,
It's
this is like,
Shakespeare to them.
royalty. Royalty is up here doing this kind of like wild, off the wall, like slasher film about this guy in a mask, and it's like, but that is what grips you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love Return of the Living Dead. It's definitely one of my top five horror movies. A damn safe movie. I can just watch it. The dialogue is so great. It's so smart. Bert and Ernie. And then there's also this kind of like a, what's going on with Ernie? Like,
Yeah.
he's like, what is this guy about? Like,
The psychotic mortuary guy across the street. You know what I mean? But he's the one we're
right.
gonna go to for help. I love the concept that Night of the Living Dead actually happened. You know what I mean? And they got the bodies in the basement. I think people don't realize that it's not stupid. It's actually very smart when you look at how all the pieces connect.
Indeed, it is indeed. And I guess, other than that, what? I think, I mentioned it earlier, but Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
Really, kind of, because I guess, it's so just everybody's seen it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it loses a lot of its like horrific horror, like, at the time, how horrific that music was, and that
Yeah.
kind of feeling was of being like isolated on the ocean with this like leviathan, like, that is like just swimming around you, waiting for you to be in its clutches. Like,
Yeah.
it kind of like, it's like the pinnacle to me of horror. that I put up there. And a lot of the times when you do like the top five or Mount Rushmore horror, like people forget about Jaws
Yeah,
and how impactful and kind of like a sequel to Psycho,
yeah,
almost like with the music, which is so critical.
yeah.
And another reason that I love Return of the Living Dead is because of the music, like
Oh god,
all
that
of that.
soundtrack is just so much fun.
Yeah,
Oh my
dude.
god, it
Yeah.
really is.
Yep.
Another one we seem to fall on is Friday the 13th 2. Is there some reason why that one seems to always come up in yours and my conversation?
So I was thinking about this before we chatted, and
Hmm.
I actually saw Friday the 13th 3 first.
Okay.
I saw Friday the 13th 3 first. Then I saw Friday the 13th 1, and I was a little confused because I was like, wait a minute, where's Jason? Like I didn't know the origins. And then years after that, I one day caught Friday the 13th 2 on like regular TV, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the one I haven't seen. Now
Hmm.
I can say I've seen 1, 2, and 3. And my mind was just kind of blown that Jason was not in the hockey mask.
Yep.
For so long in 3, you don't see him. You just see like his legs or his upper body, or he's like, behind the sheets and everything. But I just thought it was like almost like a brand new movie to me, like a brand new movie series to see Jason in this form, and also kind of like younger, like he's kind of like a younger man
Yeah.
in Friday too, as opposed to like a grown ass man. Well, he looks bigger, even though I think chronologically those movies didn't actually happen too far from one another,
Right.
But he definitely was a different size. But and that my first introduction to Jason, so. Yeah, and I just think that the sack is very scary. Um,
I'm a sucker for a scary man in the woods. You know what I mean? I like the hockey
yeah,
mask, but I'm a fan of Sackhead or Baghead. You know, whatever you want to call him. There's just
yeah,
something about him, like with the flannel and the overalls and the pitchfork. You know what I mean?
yeah. The boots, like all of
Yes.
that together, it's like, dude, this. You get a little bit of that with Victor Crowley in the
Yeah.
Hatchet series,
Hmm.
which I thought was like kind of a gem in the
Yeah.
past, couple decades of horror. Kind of maybe something that begat like an Art the Clown and the
Yep.
super like off the wall gore and shit. So yeah, I'm a sucker for a man in the woods too, because I used to like tell younger kids, like I would tell them ghost stories or scary stories, and a
Oh,
lot of the
nice.
times, well, yeah, well, come on, a lot of the times it had been done to me. A
Yeah.
lot of the times I would
Fair
like
is
tell them,
fair.
like, I would be like, and this story is true. Go home and ask your parents. They'll tell you about it on the news, like that it happened. And they'd be like, it is. And I even had some parents like approach me on the bus, like, stop telling my son scary stories. And I'm like, what? But why? They're great. They're like, they're
But
not
it's
great for every
fun.
night.
But it's
Yeah.
fun.
When he's trying to go to sleep, he can't because he's thinking of stories you told him.
Another one you and I have talked about a lot is, I don't know if you're just a Clive Barker guy, but we usually always talk about Nightbreed. I think that's an underrated one because everyone always looks towards Candyman. Everyone looks towards the first Hellraiser, even Lord of Illusions. But it seems like, in my opinion, Nightbreed doesn't get a lot of love, and I don't think that's fair. I think it's very underrated. And one thing I like about Clive is his creativity, the way all of his monsters and his demons
Hmm.
look. And like we talked about with Tony Todd, there's something about the way Clive Barker can write dialogue. These
Indeed.
scary, vile, evil looking creatures, all this gore, but it's classical. You know what I mean? It's Shakespeare.
It's a composition. It's a composition is what it is, and it all fits together. Again, I use that word harmony to like
Mm-hmm.
almost be like where you can just like kind of like play this in the background and have it lull you to sleep because you know every word of dialogue, and the dialogue fits so well with the music that it's almost like it's like hypnotic. Yeah. Nightbreed has one hell of an opening scene.
Oh god. Oh god. I remember, like I told you, my mom was the horror fan. Dad was Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Star Wars and stuff like that. But what got my dad into horror, and it's just these weird random things, was Clive Barker. Eric, I recorded this on HBO last night. Have you ever heard of Hellraiser 3? This
Uh-huh.
fucking statue ripped a girl's skin off. And I watched him like, yeah, Dad,
Yeah.
welcome to the club. Or
Yeah.
Nightbreed. He would talk about, he loved David Cronenberg under the mask, but the scene where the guy's ripping his forehead off. He's like,
Uh-huh.
and then
Uh-huh.
this motherfucker's face is shaped like a moon. And you
Yep.
have this guy and the girl with all the spines. So it's just like that creativity can bring in, like, that's Clive Barker's amazing, dude. He can
Oh
bring
yeah.
in someone who's not into horror just by the way it looks.
That's right, masters of the composition and the art form that is like horror and terror and these things that you don't want to see, but you do. There is definitely an appetite inside of the human condition where we want to see these just absolute horrible things that we can't imagine manifested and come to like as close to real life, but not be real,
Right.
and I think that's what kind of like keeps us as a society safe, from Christians to the lions, or public executions and things like that, as we can kind of digest that through deathmatch wrestling or
Yep.
slasher films and things of that nature.
Yep. I got a couple questions left, but I'm gonna do that game I told you about with the final girls. I did this with Madman Pondo a couple weeks ago, but I had him choose horror icons. I'm sure you've seen the thing online where, let's just say it's a Comic-Con. Who do you think is better, Green Lantern or Superman? Superman. Who do you think's better, Superman or Batman? That type of thing.
Right,
Well,
right.
with you, I didn't want to do the same thing with Pondo. I'm going to go with Final Girls for
Okay.
Mr. Larry Legend. And I know you have a favorite in here. I was going to ask you about her, but I'm just going to let you talk about her when we get to her. So it's not necessarily who you think is the better; it's who you prefer.
Sure,
So
sure.
and then the winner goes on to the next round. So Mr. Larry Legend, we have Sidney Prescott from the Scream franchise, or we have Sally Hardesty from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Who would you prefer as your final girl of those two?
I gotta go with oh, that's so tough. I got because Sydney kicks some ass, there's definite like shots that she gets in.
Mm-hmm.
There's like fight inside of her. She kicks his legs out of his leg. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
she's throwing down, bro. And there's something that is such a turn on about a woman that is like, no, I'm not just gonna scream and get stabbed. Sally's just tossed into a world of like, what the fuck is going
Exactly.
on? Like she didn't even have time to fight. So I guess my preference would be Sydney Prescott
Okay.
um for those two.
All right. So Sydney. So either Sydney Prescott or, in my opinion, an underrated final girl. We have Alice Johnson from Elm Street 4 and 5, Dream Master and Dream Child.
Okay, so here we have another fighter. We have
Yeah,
another person that actually squares up and punches and kicks and fucks Freddy up.
twice.
That
Only girl to defeat him twice.
yeah. So it's like because I'm into fantasy and sort of like magic and holding up a mirror and all of that, and I kind of like the fantasy fight of like using your inside powers to like become almost like a superhero against a supervillain. So I'm going with Alice.
Yes. Good for you.
Yes, indeed.
Always happy when Alice gets some love. Like I said, underappreciated in my opinion. Now, you said fantasy. I said underappreciated. We have Alice Johnson, or we have Kirsty Cotton. Hellraiser
Ooh.
1, 2, and 6.
Oh, you know, I I gotta stick with Alice on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not as familiar with the Hellraiser series.
Okay. That's fine.
So I just feel like that I gotta stick with what I know, and
That's
I
fine.
can tell you everything that Alice does. Whereas you said six, you said one, two, and six.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even seen Hellraiser 6, honestly. Like I'm not
It's
gonna.
okay. It's more a cameo, dude. It's when once they got to 5, it was more like, hey, we have this script, let's throw Pinhead in it so we can keep the rights type of thing. So,
Right, right.
all right. So we have Alice Johnson, or one of the people always put up as the goats. We have Laurie Strode. How from a over from just Halloween in general. She's been in so many.
Again, another fighter. Ah, these are
I didn't want to make
tough.
this. I didn't want to make it easy for you, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I like it tough. I like it tough. Alice. Mm,
Go with your gut.
gosh, man. I mean, and there are so many Lorries. There are so many kind of iterations of her. I guess man, I'm gonna stick with Alice.
All right. All
Yep,
right.
I'm sticking with Alice.
Nothing wrong with that. So we got again Alice Johnson, or one of my all-time favorite final girls. We got Ginny from Friday 2.
Oh, Jenny. Jenny's awesome, dude.
Yep.
Jenny's awesome, and Jenny's smart.
Yes.
She's really smart, and like her swerve of how she gets him is like top tier fucking like, wait, whoa, shit, he doesn't realize it.
Yep.
Mother is pleased. Like it's
Yep.
like it's a
Mother is talking to you. Yes.
yes, dude. And then the Betsy Palmer cameo.
Yep.
Ah, fuck, dude. Gosh, they're so similar,
They
man.
are.
Like
They
I
are.
was actually just thinking to myself that Alice is so smart.
She is.
Like
She is.
I'm gonna say because she lasted and brought forth a child and just figured it out. I'm sticking with Alice, man. Alice
That's
Johnson's my
awesome.
girl, bro.
It's happy to I'm happy to see Alice at least make it this far.
Hell yeah.
Now, does Alice Johnson beat Nancy Thompson? Now you keep bringing up Nancy and Heather Lagenkamp this whole interview, Larry.
She can't beat the goat. She can't beat the goat. I'm 100% Nancy Thompson,
All
dude.
right.
Like,
Hey,
sorry, Alice. You fought the
hey,
good fight, girl, but
she lasted long. Now
yeah, she did.
here's the one that I'm really interested in with you, Larry, because we've recently talked about her. How about
I
the
knew
girl
it.
Tina,
I knew
Friday
I
the
knew
13th,
I
7
knew
New
it.
Blood,
I
Tina
knew it.
Shepard.
I knew it, dude. I knew it.
I know your love for her.
Oh my gosh. Wow, dude, that is so hard because she's so awesome.
She's so under. She dropped a fucking house on him. She blew him up. I'm talking
She
about Tina. Every
she resurrected her dad.
yeah, which I really like that ending. A lot of people shit on the ending. I like the dad coming to save the day personally for
I
New Blood.
I love it. I love it because it bookends when you see at the
Yes.
beginning the him like no, Dara, I'm sorry, and
Yeah.
her fucking like like she killed him,
Love
and
it.
yeah, oh, oof, wow. What do you think?
We only
I
got two
guess
more. We only got two more after this round.
I'm gonna go with Nancy. I'm gonna
Okay.
keep Nancy up.
That's okay.
Yep.
That's okay. Tina still got the love. And like I said, I'm happy that Alice made it as far as she did. So we got Nancy Thompson. And this is my final girl. This is me, number one final girl. Ellen Ripley, the Queen, Sigourney Weaver, in my opinion.
Yeah, you really made this hard. Partly because I'm not thinking of some of these.
Mhm.
I knew Tina was coming.
Yeah, of course.
Uh
There's no wrong answer, Larry.
Nancy.
All right. Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Final round, and I think I know who you would probably pick as much as you love Nancy, but it's either Nancy or Gail Weathers from Scream. Oh, maybe it's not as easy as I thought. Okay.
These are all awesome final girls, man. That's the thing. They're all awesome. As I hold my final girl, because I'm not getting any more cats after this. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go with Nancy.
All right.
I'm sticking with Nancy. Yeah, that's my girl.
So, Larry Legend's number one final girl as of this recording, Nancy Thompson from A Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 3, and shout out to her as herself, Heather Langenkamp in New Nightmare, which I think is her best performance of the
I
three.
agree. I agree.
I think it,
Three seals the deal for me because it's my favorite nightmare, and
mhm.
she is part of what makes it my favorite nightmare. But yeah, New Nightmare was the only one that I got to see in the theaters. My mom
Same
took me to
here.
see that. Yep.
Yep. My only gripe with, and I didn't really give a shit when I was younger, but now becoming an old curmudgeon. My only gripe with Dream Warriors is she fell for the oldest trick in the book. When her dad floats in, I'm like, you're still in the dream. You should have known better. It takes more than just Joey screaming to defeat Freddy, but it's a
Yeah.
nitpick. It's still a classic. It's still great. And one of the last shows, I will say this, one of the last shows before the world shut down, I got to see Dokken. They sung Dream Warriors. Don Dokken can't hit the high notes, but it was still a great fucking performance, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a great show. Uh well, Larry, I've kept you for long enough, but I do always end these interviews with two specific questions. Now, let's just say you have no bookings this week, a certain weekend. You have the house to yourself, and everything's going great. What does Larry Legend do to relax for 48 hours? There are no wrong answers. I've had people say I just play video games. I've had people literally say I clean the house for 2 days. Germ T Ripper, you met him in Berwyn a couple
Of
times.
course. Of
Yeah,
course.
shout out to Germ. I've had him on the show. He said I jerk off to gay porn. So there is no bad answer, no wrong answer. What does Larry Legend do to just chill for a weekend with no commitments?
I spend as much time as I can with my cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, my cats are really starting to become critical to my mental health,
Yeah.
you know. And I don't get to spend that much time with them because I have a lot. So
Hmm.
I kind of have to like equally spend time with each one. So
Hmm.
if I had no bookings and I had no responsibilities, I would just kind of like give each one of them a little bit of Larry time and get a little bit of, time with them. Which is what I'm getting right now. Like
Yeah.
she gets a lot of attention right now by default because I'm doing the interview in this room, but I get it very much done it in her sister's room, and then Kat would be the one that would be kind of like around me. So yeah, I would spend time with my kitties.
I love it. Final question. We never know when we're going to leave the earth, but if you knew tomorrow that Larry Legend was going to be gone and you had no limits, what would Larry Legend's final meal be? Now, there's no limits. I've had one person do the whole spiel: appetizer, meat, salad, da 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 da, alcohol, dessert. I've had Madman Pondo say, "I'd just be happy with stovetop stuffing." My friend Melissa, who I told you with the blind dog, she said, "Just give me Kraft mac and cheese and strawberry ice cream. No limits." What is Larry Legend's final meal?
Um, it would be my grandma's fried chicken,
Okay.
which obviously I haven't had for well, no. My grandma passed away in '93.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a long time since I've had or smelled her fried chicken, but she would, you know, dress that with like, some corn on the cob,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like some a baked potato, some French string beans or something like that, and just kind of make it like just a big old plate of food. and her cooking was always the best in my family. I miss it so much. So if I could have my last meal and it could be no limit,
No
it
limit.
would be my grandma's fried chicken. In particular, I would have her make me chicken wings because that's my favorite piece of the chicken. And with all the fixins, hot buttered rolls, corn on the cob,
How do you have the
baked
baked
potato.
potato? How do you have the baked potato?
I'm kind of a plain Jane. Like I don't like sour cream. I just like a lot of butter and a
Hmm.
lot of salt.
Okay.
Like I like to have to drink a lot as I'm
Yeah.
eating. Like all those flavors to kind of like make my mouth go crazy with the medley and kind of have to wash that and then do it all over again, like and more flavor. So
Yeah.
yeah. That would be.
There's something I never thought of. Like I interviewed another independent pro wrestler, Eric Fallon, and he introduced me to, like, he said for his baked potato would be part of his final meal, and he puts cottage cheese and a shit ton of pepper on it. It sounds weird, but it works.
So yeah, my aunt likes cottage cheese on her baked potato.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's not unheard of,
I'd never heard of it until he said it. I've never heard anyone
yeah.
say it since.
Yeah, my aunt specifically asked for cottage cheese when she sends me out to this place around us called Windsor Inn, and she likes boiled crab cakes, and her side is always like mixed vegetables and a baked potato with cottage cheese. Yeah.
God
So
bless her. Love it.
he ain't alone. Yeah. Some people just
Uh,
like that different flavors in their mouth. Like
it,
I again, I'm kind of plain Jane. My
mhm.
grandma once joked that I'd be fine with just bread and water. She said I'd be a perfect prisoner. Cause
we
like,
call we call my daughter plain Jane. What do you want? What kind of pizza you want? Cheese. You want anything on your taco? Just the meat. You know what I mean?
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
She does it. She'll maybe dab a little hot sauce and like ramen noodles, but that's about it. But we call her plain Jane. Hamburgers, meat,
Yeah.
bun, no ketchup, no mustard, nothing. That's how she is too.
I was the same way. I've refined my palate a little bit more only because like at one point it started to get involved. It used to interfere with my social because like someone would throw a party, a birthday party, surprise birthday party at a sushi bar, and
Hmm.
I'm like, what? I'm not eating any of this,
Yeah,
like, and it's like, what are you gonna do? Not eat anything? Please try some. And
yeah.
I've kind of like opened up a little bit more just to be accepting of like, hey, if it's gonna be Mexican, it's gonna be sloppy looking, but we're gonna eat it.
I love it. Larry, do you have any bookings or any social media you want to throw out? I mean, you can plug the Boulevard Bullies again if you want before we end this.
Yeah, Boulevard Bullies versus the World every Tuesday night on YouTube Live, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You can follow me on Instagram at Real Larry Legend, on Twitter BLKLKP. That's BLK, like blackout.
Hmm.
LKP, Larry Kennedy Phillips, which was my first ring announcer name ever in my life. I was Larry Kennedy Phillips before I was Larry Legend. So BLKLKP is my X handle. My Facebook, I recently just got shut out of, and now I keep trying to get back in, and they keep saying we can't verify that you are who you are.
Yeah, that was weird because we initially were contacting each other through Facebook, and I sent a reminder like last week, and it says this person cannot accept messages. I'm like, what the fuck? I
Yeah,
said,
it's
did Larry go AWOL? Well, so I hooked up on X with you. So
yeah, it's happened to me before, and it's always kind of like a challenge to be like, okay, I need to get back into this. But I just was like, I don't need to get back into
right,
it. Like, I don't. Like, I have several other Facebooks and several other avenues of social media and people's numbers. If I really need to get in contact with someone, I'll text them. Like,
exactly.
I don't need to get back into the so I saw Facebook. So I just kind of let it settle, and I'll figure it out. I'm doing having a better time connecting with my real friends, like my kitty,
Yeah,
and not a whole bunch of numbers and stuff. So,
exactly.
yeah.
So with that, Larry, first off, shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you for being
Oh,
here.
shout out to everyone. Can I
Yeah.
see the chat? I didn't even.
Yeah, well, we there you should be able to see comments. A lot of it is just hello, hi, how you doing? Um, let's see
Huh.
here. Chris, well, it's
Oh,
horror
I see.
related.
I see.
Yeah, just got done finally watching Weapons. Solid 9 out of 10. Like
Yeah.
this quite a bit more than Sinners. I really liked Weapons. I thought Weapons was pretty good. Sinners, I liked it more the second time I
Hey,
watched it. So
Anthony. I'm catching up on all these. Wow, we had a lot of comments. Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. I
It's all
wasn't on
good.
my A game. Now I got them up
No,
on the screen. Wow. I could have
no,
been. I'm
you're all
sorry,
good,
y'all.
dude. You're all good.
Hey,
I
everybody.
tell them the same way. Sometimes the conversation just keeps flowing. But I just appreciate them showing up. And again, to you, Larry, thank you for giving me a little over 90 minutes of your time, man. I know you got other priorities and stuff like that, but again, I'm glad we were able to make this happen. I appreciate you giving me time
Yeah,
just to
thank
shoot
you.
the shit about your career and to talk some horror. I'm sure you're tired of just the old usual wrestling talk too.
Well, that's one of the reasons I also plug the Boulevard Bullies, because a lot of the times we just spin off into horror talk.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I just want to say before I go, I believe that they are hand in glove. This type of feeling that us pro wrestling fans get, a lot of the times we also are into the entertainment that is in what is classified as the genre of horror.
Yeah.
So they kind of like are a club, and if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. But we can all kind of vibe and fuck with one another and share
Mm-hmm.
and do, fun things like that. So listen to Boulevard Bullies, because we will talk a little bit of horror, maybe a lot of horror on there every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock on YouTube.
Yeah. So appreciate everybody. If you're, I got 2 more interviews scheduled before I have my little season finale. 1 week from tonight, I just had my first ring announcer. 1 week from tonight, I have my first referee, Miss Gina
Awesome.
Monty. Gina
I
Monty
love
will be on.
Gina.
I've
I
been,
love her.
I don't know too much about her other than the fact that she's a big Simpsons fan, and that's how her and I hooked up. We're just always sending Simpsons memes. And
Right
then
on.
in April, he's agreed to, but we haven't set a date yet. Season finale, episode 25, is the Kill Billy Nathan Mowry. I cannot wait to
Nice.
talk to that crazy bastard, but
Oh
it's going to be a
yeah.
lot of fun.
Hey,
So
I'm in good company.
yes, you are, sir.
I'm in good company. I like both of those individuals a lot, and I'm sure that they're gonna add their little slice of Gina and Nathan to the show, and I feel honored, privileged to be leading the way for them.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. And once again, in closing, Larry, thank you again for being a good bud on social media. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
interaction, and just again, give me some 90 minutes of your time to shoot the shit. I really do appreciate it, man.
I appreciate coming this far in my career that I can have interactions with people on social media, and it can lead to us actually doing something like this. This
Hmm.
is this is huge to me, because I just started out playing with my figures on my floor, and
Hmm.
now I'm connecting with people all over the world for our love of wrestling, and it just takes the pain away, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yes, I do.
It takes it away to just know that you're a part of a community. You can add your little 2 cents and have conversations and create content, and that means we're not alone. We got each other. It really feels
That's right.
great, man.
That's right. So with that, I'm Eric. That is Larry Legend, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.